Hi, my name is MJ Tom. I also go by the name Empress Wu professionally. I use all pronouns. I'm an East Asian femme with long dark hair, red lips, and cat eye glasses. I'm wearing a chain necklace and a leather harness over a white button-up shirt with a face and hands on it. I'm sitting in front of a vintage mirror. Now, I can tell you that tonight's performers are absolutely tingling to have your eyes on them during this panel. But before we start, we're going to edge them by beginning with some artist open studios. These are studio visits made to real talented artists on the Body of Workers platform. And we hope to offer you a peek into the lives of workers that make up Body of Workers. We hope you enjoy. Tech Garson, take it away.
Welcome to Studio EPB from Tuesday morning. I feel like this cup makes it much more like inviting, like welcome to my space. This is my library. This is like all the books that I have collected, and also all of my journals that one day someone, myself possibly, or someone else will sit and transcribe, because writing is a big part of my practice. Come take a peek over here. So this is a portrait of Madame de Pompadour. I've been studying 18th century Rococo painting, and I think she's amazing. She's totally an old pro. She was Louis XV headmistress, and I think a real political animal. And I'm like really interested in the way that she contributed to kind of what a mistress really could be. You know, this kind of archetypal role of the mistress is more than just the king's plaything. And so in my library, I like to look at paintings and, you know, consider myself part of the art historical canon as much as I have issue with that. I'm looking at another painting over here of Van Gogh's peasant shoes. I don't know where that's going to go, but this is kind of the area where I do my research. Now we're getting to kind of the space where I actually have active projects. So this is this piece is called Suspension. It's meant to be played with and climbed up in. It's like safer interaction. I actually started at the beginning of the quarantine, kind of thinking I'll be done with it when we're out of this shit. So I'm still working on it. Maybe working on it for a couple more years. But these robe installations is like the third, maybe the third or fourth one of this kind of project that I've done. It also feels really important to have something that, like, when I don't know what to do in my process, I can like just go and like just do some kind of gesture. You know, I think people have said interesting things like it's like the deep sea and a bondage dungeon all at once, and that feels accurate. So I'm continuing to work on these, like I call these material studies. Sometimes I call them paintings. That one is latex. This one is velvet. This one is working with surface design. They're not resolved, so I don't know, maybe I'm not going to say much more about that right now, but I'm oftentimes thinking about like where the piece will live, and so putting them on my walls, like, you know, maybe they'll be in a gallery, maybe not. I think environment always kind of informs the making. Unfortunately or unfortunately, nothing's made in a vacuum. This is my work table. I'm now working on a, you can zoom into here, working on a series of collages about mouths, because we don't see them, excuse me, anymore. They're like very, they're very taboo. Mouths are very taboo now. You know, communicating with just the eyes and the like kind of above the nose. It's an interesting experience. So every space that I have, every space that I occupy, I always try to have an altar. Looks like a bookshelf, but it's actually really an altar. You can see it says altar items 2020, and there's a candle burning, and then these various items that I place on the altar as a kind of praxis. Like, I am not a religious person, but I do have like an orthopraxis approach, which means that I do the thing, and then like it doesn't matter whether I actually have faith in it or not. Like, I don't need to have a belief. I just need to do the thing and like kind of move on. So an altar practice is like spiritual, it's also practical. It's just a way of organizing my thoughts and also respecting and commemorating things that are important that don't necessarily have a utilitarian function or use.
Hi, come on in. I am Cléo Ouyang. I'm a pro-dom and kink educator based in Brooklyn, New York, and this is my studio, Shayla. The name represents my unbridled narcissism. It was a working title, but we decided to keep it because it represents everything I love most in this world, which is me. Let me show you some of my work. This right here was an installation that was created for a very special event. It was commissioned by a kind of high-power client. He hated it, could not stand it. However, many other people have appreciated its gifts over the years, and so I keep this in the studio as a constant reminder of how art can really get inside of you. These are some of the tools of the trade. Yes, we have all kinds of really wonderful things in here that I use to create the works that inspire people and move people and really truly make them weep tears of pain. Joy, definitely joy, never of pain. Everything's kind of a little bit messy, but what Artist Studio isn't. It's just a really good thing that the camera can't pick up loop spots because there's too many of them in there. Yeah, let's just move along a little bit. This gallery right here, this is actually 9 triptychs that I created to go together. You know, they work well as a set, and this represents my relationship with the community, because you can never have too much relationship with the community. It's just all these people that I just adore so much. Let me tell you about some of the tools on this wall. Let's see. Oh, this. I went to the far off land of Chelsea and found the most adorable little shop down there, just filled with the most wonderful, sweet, kind people. The locals are just so kind there. And so I just had to bring this home from my travels. Let's see. Oh, this one, this is a piece of work that I created. This represents actually kind of a rough time in my life. I created this while watching season 9 of The Bachelorette. And it really represents where I was in my life. You can see the unfinished ends and the kind of rough handle here. And that's lube on that. And that really just represents kind of my relationship to my work. And we keep it here in the studio to remind us where we've been and where we can go. This was a lovely gift from a lovely friend. Let's see. Oh, this piece right here. This represents man's relationship with rugs, the just duality and bondage that man has with the rug and the rug culture. Oh, let's talk about this gallery here. So this gallery, this is an inspiration to me. These are artworks that I have picked up on my travels. Like I found that on a stoop, I found that on a stoop, I found that on a stoop, and oh, I got that at South by. And then, oh yes, that piece over there, that was created for me by my wonderful friend, Empress Wu. She made it for me. It's real, organic, free-range blood. So what inspires me, I draw inspiration from everywhere, truly. Kind of unconventional inspirations at times. For example, the entire time I was building out this studio, I spent the last 6 weeks listening to all of the Smithsonian's audio footage of World War II. That was a huge, massive inspiration for this project. Whale noises also moved me quite a bit. The sounds of grass growing were instrumental in creating this body of work here.
Welcome to my dungeon, deep space. I'm Dom Discordia, and this is where I make beautiful music. Yes, torture is my pleasure, and source of filthy money to touch to my face, to touch on. I gotta make money, and I'm gonna make it here. Listen to the sound in here. Listen to the space. Look at the cage where I make them cry out, please for freedom. See, this is the room for vocal work. But sometimes I really like to get my hands dirty. Of course, as a dominatrix, physical percussion is everything. Oh, but you really need to come to the drum room if you want to see how that goes down. You know, some people think it's just a matter of hurting people, but no, it's about making beautiful things and beautiful sounds. And this is where I make my finest music, right in here. Of course, we have so many classic sounds. The accent, the cymbals, drama, as we build towards a grand ejaculatory finale. Oh, just a bit of soft drum brushing for the senses. Oh, sometimes a little cooler. Oh, classic rattling of chains. Very industrial, very stop walker. I like to keep it experimental. Take it a step further, you know. And other forms of percussion as well. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just a slap of leather against supple flesh. Of course, we have my favorite, the synthesizer, the twisting of buttons, pressing. Mouse and buttons get me so hot, the wires, and making their assholes pulsate in time with my beautiful music. Oh, shocking their asshole into ecstasy. The sounds, the sights, the ultimate symphony, commissioned by my dearest Fido, my best pet and sub. Oh, he likes it all. He likes a big show.
Hello, hello. Oh, I need to change my name again. Technology. Just give me 1 second. Gotta get my pronouns in there. Gotta have them pronouns. All right. Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm the curator. Welcome to Low Art, High Standards, a very real and not at all fictional panel about the intersections of sex and art and technology. My name is the curator, as I've said, and I will be your moderator this evening. I am a white cisgender woman with shoulder-length brown hair and a side shave. I'm wearing a black lace blouse and a glittery pink lip. Behind me is my personal collection of erotic art. And before I get started, I feel the need to just smudge a little. If anyone has some sage on hand, I recommend you join me. And some smudging, you know, it's hard using technology to really get into that embodiment. So this is one relational tool that I like to use. So I'm gonna burn this as I tell you a little bit about what's to come, if you know what I mean. I'd like to start off by thanking Eyebeam for hosting this festival and Body of Workers for inviting me to moderate this discussion. As a curator who prides herself on supporting the most titillating, avant-garde art out there, I was, frankly, thrilled when actual sex workers invited me to talk about their art. A little bit about me. I'm the curator at the Contemporary Museum of American Art and was recognized in 2020 with the Hot Curatorial Award for my commitment to showing the most titillating art by the most marginalized and tokenized artists across the United States. So I'd like to start off by giving some political context for those unfamiliar with the problems faced by sex workers today. The internet censorship law, SESTA, FOSTA, was passed in 2018, billed as a law to curb sex trafficking. However, sex workers claimed it has led to them being kicked off of digital platforms like social media and payment processors, and has led to sweeping terms of service changes on sites like Tumblr and Instagram and Venmo. As sex workers' content is erased from the internet, archives of sex worker art are disappearing as they are shadow banned and algorithmically suppressed. They claim they are losing access to digital space. During a global pandemic, when our lives are taking place online, I'm sure we can all imagine how hard it must be to not be able to convene, express, or exist online. In response to this, the sex worker artist collective Veil Machine, one of the co-producers of Body of Workers, hosted a protest art piece, Eviction, funded as part of the Eyebeam Rapid Response for Better Future Residency. Eviction was a fictional listing site that lived for 12 hours before self-destructing at midnight. During its brief life, 18 sex worker artists hosted cam performances and sold sex and art objects and lured viewers into hidden corners of the site with mazes and puzzles and secret rooms. After Eviction, sex workers who had used the platform reached out to Veil Machine asking whether it would be possible to build a space just as defiant and sexy, but that lived on. Kink Out had already been dreaming of a virtual sex workers art space, so the two paired up to create Body of Workers. Body of Workers is a virtual art gallery and safe house for sex workers by sex workers. Body of Workers is still only a prototype, but as you all are the special guests of Eyebeam, you will get a sneak peek of what the platform looks like now. I do just want to take a moment to recognize that Body of Workers is being coded entirely by BIPOC, trans, and gender nonconforming, queer, kinky sex workers, which is like, wow, right? So, Body of Workers is a tiered membership platform and radical reclaiming of digital space. Sex worker artists join as artists and share their content with each other in a virtual locker room. People like you and me, since I, of course, have never been a sex worker, let alone written extensively about my background in sex work, won't be able to see inside this sex worker haven. However, sex workers can choose to share their art with patrons, paying voyeurs who will pay a subscription fee to enjoy the peep show. As patrons, we will be able to discover new sex worker artists to follow and support. Body of Workers is building a space away from the surveillance and censorship of the social media platforms we use today. Most social media platforms are actively hostile towards sex workers through overbroad terms of service that target and censor anyone who even appears to be a sex worker. They blame FOSTA SESTA for these choices. Body of Workers is showing that we can structure digital spaces differently and that we should. If we believe in free, open, public spaces for all. Body of Workers teamed up with the Harvard Bergman Klein Cyber Law Clinic to create radically safe and pro-sex worker terms of service and privacy policies. Those are still in the works and won't be ready until the official launch later this year. Privacy policies as art, right? That is like so out of the box. So now we're going to get to take a little peek into how Body of Workers actually works. Again, what is so captivating about this site is that there are different levels of access for different categories of visitors, artists and patrons. On the artist side, the site is like a locker room. Sex workers can share art among themselves in a private virtual safe house. Artists can also decide who gets to see each individual work, whether it's only me or artists or patrons. Now, from the patron's perspective, the site is structured like a peep show or a strip club where you must pay to have access. And because there are tags by keyword and location, people are able to search by mediums and styles or artists in the same area. The intention is that we will eventually be building towards an archive of sex worker art. And trust me, as a curator who's tried to scour the internet for sex worker artists, I cannot wait to have a one-stop shop for my Art from the Margins curatorial series. The Body of Workers artists have told me, and I love this, that they want to approach this vision as sex workers. Through client financing, Body of Workers will provide the resources, both art and money, to create an eventual sex workers museum. So, as the curator, I decided to gather 5 people to come together for this panel as the voices informing the conversation around sex worker art. Now, we're going to introduce each of the panelists who have joined me this evening. And first up, I believe we have the Critic.
Hi, everyone. I am the Critic. My pronouns are she and they. I don't believe in gender constructs. And another thing about me that you should know is I am Black. I am wearing a Wembley riding hat that is very velvety. Under it is a Black do-rag. And then under that is a turquoise blue hue color of hair peeking out. I also have on some circular Dwayne Wayne type 90s glasses. I think it's, at this time we can say retro. And under that I have clear eyes that are deep mahogany brown with a Black eyeliner. Nude lip. I also have a button-up shirt that is a bit see-through. So I am someone who works for the Whitney Biennial. I have an expert eye when it comes to what art is, and specifically when I say art, like going deeper levels of art. And I'm really happy to be here as part of this.
Well, we're very, very happy to have you. Thank you so much. Next, we have the Lobbyist. Do you have anything to say?
Hello, I'm the Lobbyist. I am a white woman with brown hair. I am wearing a black shirt with red dress, and I'm modestly dressed, which is truly all you need to know. And in fact, I don't understand how the prompt to describe what I look like is even relevant to this conversation, other than its clearly objectifying nature. A little bit about me. First and foremost, I am a mother, a wife, and a close personal friend of Ashton Kutcher. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps from generational familial wealth and now have a high salaried position at a nonprofit that saves women from trafficking and turns them into true feminist role models. I'm here today to talk about Body of Workers, the newest market of flesh for the buying and selling of girls.
Okay, and oh, next we have the artist. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Hi, I'm so happy you invited me today. So I'll give a visual description first. I am an East Asian woman with tan skin and kind of an oval face. I'm wearing a black dress and oversized black sunglasses with red nail polish on my nails. A little about me. I almost have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in painting, but I am an artist now, just maybe not in the way that you think. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so happy that you're here. I can't wait to hear more from you. Next we have the dealer. Hi there.
Hi, I'm the dealer. I am East Asian with tan skin, black hair, red lips, and I'm wearing cat eye glasses by Miu Miu. I'm also wearing a white button-up shirt with a face and hands on it, which is designed by Helmut Lang. Just a little bit about me. I own Expensive, which is a gallery of locations on the Lower East, Upper East, Chelsea, and also we're expanding into London. I was introduced to Body of Workers by a glitch art friend of mine that I met at a issue launch for Hyperallergic, because I'm always looking to find like emerging artists to introduce to collectors, and I just thought that it might be like an interesting project to invest in.
Well, we're very, very glad that you feel that way. And last, maybe least, is the collector.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm the collector. I'm East Asian and non-binary with olive skin. I have brown eyes and I'm wearing glasses with a light blue dress shirt, sitting in a well-lit room with plenty of expensive artwork behind me. I work in mergers and acquisitions for Barclays, and it's an extremely demanding profession. So art is how I like to relax on my free time. I've been interested and supporting art my entire life, and my home and my collection reflects that. I also have deeply personal relationships with artists. In fact, I really consider them more my friends. So I'm deeply interested in this Body of Workers venture, as I really like to be involved from the very beginning of artists' projects. And I know just how valuable my support can be to artists and how they appreciate my generosity. So if I have a true interest in somebody's work, I'm more than happy to pay, and to pay very well for access to a unique experience. After all, I work hard for my money, so I want to enjoy it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We hope that you enjoy yourself. And okay, so I just want all of the attendees to know that you can find a program about the panel at www.veilmachine.com/LAHS for more context on why we're here and the project and the participants. And speaking of those participants, can we get you all back here on the panel so we can see all of your visages? Okay. Great. So how this is going to work is that I have some questions prepared for all of you, and each of the questions is sort of, anchored to or attached to a piece of work. So our tech guy or gal or tech person is going to queue up a piece of art. Techie. Can we get this first piece of art? There it is. Great. Okay, so this piece of art is, the artist's name is Mistress Phoenix. It is entitled A Digital Encounter. And I'll give you a description of it. It's a screenshot taken by Mistress Phoenix on a campsite. Mistress Phoenix is smiling at an image of balls covered in clothespins, and the balls are covered in clothespins. And on the side is a series of chat conversations between her and her viewers. And you know, when I think about this piece, I've given it a lot of thought. And, you know, I really think that a great place to start thinking about this piece is, you know, what is the difference? Where is the line between sex work and art? So I'm going to have the dealer start with that. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question a lot recently because I see sex worker art as like a new, you know, it's like a new genre. So I think that there's like a lot of innovation that sex worker art could bring to the market. And yeah, I have been thinking about it. And, you know, sex work, artistic expression, these are two industries that have been around since before the dawn of industry. And I think that, you know,
profession.
The oldest profession, exactly correct. And yeah, I think that, you know, prostitutes get a lot of shit all the time for, you know, the stuff that they have to go through. But in reality, I do think that it should be legalized, and so that, you know, we can tax them, and then that way we can also like introduce them to the people that they need to be introduced to. So I'm really excited about, you know, like a platform like this, so that it makes my job a little bit easier, that's for sure.
Does anyone want to respond to that? And before, I just, not to get too PC, but I think that that prostitute is like not really like in vogue. It's like I think we prefer sex workers. So please,
yeah, sure.
Just don't say prostitute. It's kind of squirmy, right? That's not what an artist sex worker would want to be called.
Sure. Prostitute, sex worker. I'll say, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, maybe the artist would like to weigh in on that. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks so much.
I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for that note, curator. I was about to note the same thing. Sex work is the preferred term nowadays, although, you know, prostitution, it's a legal term, let's say, and it's been around.
The oldest profession.
Yeah, one might say that too. For me, I mean, the way that you described the linkages between sex work and art, I totally agree. Why draw a line in between sex work and art when you can draw a line between sex work and art and see the ways in which those reflections can illuminate one another, right? Artists are people who create illusions, create fantasies of intimacy. They wear masks sometimes, or personas. They deal in this interesting space where what they produce is commodified, but they have to sometimes play with that and create an illusion of authenticity. I mean, these are all things that sex workers do in the same ways or in very similar ways. And I find that very interesting, don't you?
God, that is so true.
If I may, I think the question that you pose is, what is the line between sex work and art? And
yeah,
I
that's
really
what I
think it's important to note that the only thing that sex work and art have in common is its exploitative nature. When the two are combined, and as long as prostitutes and erotic content exist, we are all being raped by the patriarchy.
Thinking the opposite.
We need a little content warning before you use that kind of language.
I was thinking the exact opposite. I was thinking that line in between that you were talking about is what we want to see. You want to see that lingering effect. It's as if there's a line of cum drawing in between the fingers. And that's where abstract expressionism kicks in to sex work.
The line of cum. I might have to quote you on that.
I largely agree with everything that's been said before, but I will say, I don't think of art or sex work as artifice. I mean, from the side of the patron or client, I would say that there's a lot of real emotion and real stakes, at least in my experience with the artists that I deal with, the artists that I support. I mean, that's part of the appeal of this entire platform. I want to see what's behind the art. I want to see the real story that these artists have to share. Maybe they're not comfortable sharing it with the public. Maybe that's why there should be sections that are reserved for patrons only. In any case, if the artist seems to be doing work that I'm into, I'm more than happy to pay a premium in order to have access to that part of their life.
And we do appreciate that about you so much. And unless anybody else wants to weigh in on the line of cum between sex work and art, let's go ahead and tech, can we get the next asset, please? Okay, great. So this is a notification from Instagram about a post deleted due to violation of their community guidelines. It's a screenshot of an Instagram notification which reads, "Your story goes against our community guidelines," for a story posted by @VeilMachine during eviction. VeilMachine decided to actually, this is brilliant, they decided to actually archive their censorship to make visible their invisibilization and create a record of the experience of deletion that sex workers face every day. Access is a huge problem for sex workers in all sorts of online spaces. My second question, has to do with censorship, the gaze, and secrets. Body of workers and eviction both had different levels of access. Secret areas devoted only to sex workers and gated environments where, if you can gain access, you can gaze as a voyeur. Whereas the eviction website was structured like a campsite with the ability to jump on to different live performances. The Body of Workers platform will work like a strip club or a peep show where you can pay to see more. So in light of all of this, how does the gated access of these sex worker art platforms speak to broader questions of the gaze and voyeurism? Does censorship produce desire? And if so, how? I guess maybe the collector, you spoke last, so if you want to, you probably have something to say about this too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for one thing, I think exclusivity definitely affects how much I want access to something and maybe how much that art object or experience is worth in the market. And quite frankly, not everyone appreciates art. So why should everyone have access to it? Maybe certain pieces of art, certain experiences should just be reserved for those who are brave enough and avant-garde enough to go and buy it. And if this Body of Workers platform turns out to be as innovative as you all claimed it is, then I would even be happy to pay for the entire platform and keep all of the work for myself. I mean, after all, that's what art collecting is about. Making sure that what I want remains at my fingertips and decreasing everyone else's access to it, actually, so that I can enjoy it at my whim.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Who gets invited to see your collection? I mean, who's exposed? Is it just the people that you are attracted to, the art you're attracted to? Like, what is that really about?
My preferences are very varied, and honestly, for me personally, I'm attracted to artists based on their energy, their spirit. That's how I decide who I want to collect. And of course, I take recommendations from dealers. I go to shows. I have friends who are critics like you. That's how I decide who to support and what art I should keep my eye on, which artists I should try to meet next.
I think what the collector is talking about here is that there is something voyeuristic about art inherently. And there's something voyeuristic also about the internet. No? I mean, when we go on to this screen, right, and we type and we search and everything is just streaming out at us, it's an inherently voyeuristic experience. When we feed into the screen, we're becoming the thing that the voyeur sees, right? We're performing to it. And I think that dynamic is exciting. It's exciting for everyone. It's exciting for everyone to use the internet. And of course, I understand that, you know, you're very excited about our platform as well. And we're excited to have you. I'm speaking to the collector here. But it is important, of course, that access is granted in interesting ways, in ways that, let's say, overturn the ways in which, let me just grab my notes here. When we put things out of reach, they produce desire, right? That's something I just talked about. And the gaze works in certain ways, and I'm sure the lobbyist would agree with me here, right? The inherent voyeurism of the internet often puts women or people of color or people who are from more marginalized communities into a position where their work is being profited off of. And they're not getting the profits of what they're making. They're not able to profit from their content. And often puts people in a position where they're being censored.
I just want to say I love what you said about feeding the gaze. That is just like, that's just, I might have to quote, I'm just gonna have to quote some of you on that. That's amazing.
I will say that I do, I do take a little offense at the way that people who make profit off of other people are being spoken about here, because in reality, we're representing artists, I am definitely in agreement with the collector that I think that artists of high quality should be the ones that are allowed on the market. Like I personally only, I see that as my job as the dealers to regulate the secondary market. I gave a whole interview to, I don't know if you've heard of him, Hrag Vartanian. He works with Hyperallergic. I gave an interview with him about like the function of the dealer and the function of galleries in the secondary market. Personally, I, represent artists who have a specific look, who have a specific style. Generally, they'll be, tattooed. They'll be young. They'll be really hungry for it.
I have a question about this. So when you talk about high quality art, like what is high quality to you?
Look, that's the thing. I think that people always see it as, oh, this is subjective, et cetera, et cetera. But, people have taste. We have had taste. Like you can look at a work of art and know that it is a good work of art because it moves you or you feel something in your body. Like I know a good artist when I see one, that's for sure.
I'm just wondering, how are we going to make sure that the people who are going to be the patrons that are on body of workers have taste, have good taste? Like, is
I
there
just
gonna be a
want to circle back.
vetting, like an online vetting process? Is that something we can do?
I just want to circle back to something that the artist was saying earlier about censorship producing desire, because censorship doesn't produce desire, it contains it. I mean, I have children, I have white children who are using the internet, and Lord only knows what kind of filth they're going to find or what kind of trafficker is going to find them. And some things are meant to be censored if it's the stake of women on the line. If we don't censor women, we're complicit in their exploitation. If we don't censor women, we're contributing to the culture where the sale of women is completely normalized.
I just need to interject and just make sure, again, as like a point of process, that we understand that sex workers, have done a lot of work, in their art and activism to distinguish between consensual sex work, consensual sex work, and sex trafficking. They're like,
and I think as a moderator, you should understand that we're coming from two different perspectives and that there should be space for both on this panel. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think it's time to move on. Can we get our next asset up, please? Okay, great. So this is a screenshot from Untitled from 2003 by Andrea Fraser. And here we can see 4 screenshots from Andrea Fraser's Untitled 2003. The first screenshot shows an empty hotel room from the top corner, recorded on what seems like a security camera. The second panel shows a woman in a red dress leading a man to bed. The last 2 panels show the woman and the man on the bed engaged in intercourse. In Untitled, performance artist Andrea Fraser asked her gallery to arrange for one sexual encounter with a collector in a hotel room. It was recorded and editioned in 5 tapes, and these are screenshots from that encounter. So, what happens to art and sex when we buy it? What does the practice of one reveal about the other? And I guess, in the interest of fairness, I should have the lobbyist get what you have to say about this out of the way.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you suggesting that. To me, this Andrea Fraser piece isn't a question about art, but a question of artists that are being too oppressed to understand their own dehumanization. The history of art is contingent on a male artist's exploitation of a female subject as a muse. And in fact, I believe that society has actually progressed past the need for art. In fact, I find art other than that my pure and perfect children make to be frivolous and exploitative. The only authentic art is made when it is made out of unconditional love for the mother. I mean, Picasso and Courbet all hated women, but dry macaroni and paste, it never hated women. And I would never disrespect my child and encourage her to be an artist. Can you imagine that life? But I'm sorry, this isn't the artist's fault. We need more programming to divert artists out of the trade, out of the art school industrial complex, and to criminalize the collectors.
Well, but then we wouldn't have body of workers.
Precisely.
No, but it's really, I mean, haven't you been paying attention? It sounds so amazing. I mean, what do you think about it from a critic's perspective, the critic?
I mean, I just really feel like at this point, with all this social distancing and all the disassociation that we're having with our bodies, that at least, the very least, we can gain some type of creative, artistic perspective. I'm not saying that all art is great though, because like, for instance, like in this frame, I only really like the first one, the bed. But when it comes to this red dress, like, come on, how typical is that? I mean, I just prefer the bed itself. So you can like fantasize about, in a very abstract, expressionist way, what could be happening on the bed. I don't want to see this fucking collector. I don't care about the fucking red dress. Like, take that off. Like, I just want to see it in whatever format comes up in my mind.
it's interesting that you bring up the idea of this bed being like this fertile ground for someone to project their fantasies on. I think that Tracy Eamon is somebody who you would really be interested in getting to know. And if you're interested in an introduction, I can definitely introduce y'all. I did want to return to the question that the curator posited, though, which is, or the curator posed, which is, art and sex, or what happens when we commodify these two things, art and sex. I think that that's like a really fascinating question, but I just want to reiterate that it's something that has been happening since the beginning of time, and any like attempt to stifle or like limit that is really just like taking away an entire industry of people. And I think that the only pathway to doing something like this is for, is to like move forward, to figure out ways that we can innovate within the industry, to figure out ways to make it either, to make it more curated, to make it like a better, like more individual, like a luxury digital experience. Like that's something that I would be very, very interested in seeing, and something that I think that Bao could, potentially, in the same way that this bed is a space in which you can project all your fantasies. I think that Bao is like, a bed in which I can project all of my fantasies of, meeting more artists and connecting them to collectors.
Wow, you're certainly welcome in this bed. I just want to bring the conversation back to, the question and the work. There's this question
yes,
of,
please,
what happens when art and sex are bought and sold? The thing that I find really interesting about this piece is that performance art is an art that's famously very difficult to commodify. It was created in part as a rejection of the commodification of the art market. And here is a piece that is entirely about selling a performance, which I find rather beautiful and interesting. The thing about commodification is that we do live in a world where increasingly more and more of our lives are commodified. We live in a world where, since tech is part of this panel, with the internet, we're encouraged to monetize our relationships, ourselves. Everyone is kind of caught up in this game that I was beginning to talk about, of voyeurism through our screens. In fact, right now, I'm playing a certain role into this screen, and so are the rest of you, and all of you watching are engaging in this game of voyeurism that someone somewhere is profiting off of. So I think art and sex is bought and sold. It just illuminates the way in which the world functions through these.
Yes. And I think what's missing from this conversation is an analysis of the power dynamics that are at play, because the collectors and the dealers are the people who are in power and who are actually the ones who are exploiting poor artists who are selling something that is so intimate that it only belongs stuck on mommy's fridge in the confines of the home.
I would be happy to put a work on your fridge.
I think there's been a lot of slander and mud thrown over the course of this conversation. And quite frankly, I think there's really only one relationship that this platform is really facilitating here. And that's direct contact between the collector and the artist. Everyone else is a middleman.
So
is about bridging that gap so that the middleman is no longer necessary. And the artist, who is supposedly so powerless in the eyes of the lobbyists, actually gets to choose which collectors to work with, and collectors get to choose which artists to work with. In fact, I think it's the most empowering possible arrangement, and is something that allows us to create much more meaningful collaborations, because that's what art actually is, a collaboration between the artists and the collectors themselves.
There's no way to collaborate with someone who has been so brainwashed by the art and collector lobby that they are blind and complicit to their own exploitation.
I also really resent from both directions this implication that somehow like someone in my profession or like Friedrich Petzel, who's like the person who set up this arrangement, would be somehow exploitative. Like all we are interested in doing is connecting artists and collectors, and sometimes that is something that technology can do and really like we can use that as a tool, but it's never going to replace the actual labor and work that a dealer puts on the job. Because here's the thing, I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if you've ever met an artist, but they are, you know, they need help. Like they definitely need assistance. And I'm not gonna lie, there are some artists who are good at representing themselves, but there's a lot of work that goes into this job, right? There's more than just like painting paintings, because we basically make it so that the artist doesn't have to focus on all the extra work. And I think that is something that like needs to be paid attention to and given its due.
So interesting.
Well, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say how similar it is to sugaring, and just like, you know, paying an artist to do what you want them to do so that you can feel special and have your friends over for drinks amongst your art. And I really feel like I'm hoping that BOW is more of a platform that is for sex workers by sex workers, and we can, not me actually, because I'm not outward facing, but the sex workers can have a community of people that they need to talk to about like being shadow banned and like not being able to get your pay through Cash App anymore or Venmo, you know, because you show yourself in the way you want it to, and then people paid you and then you couldn't even fucking get your money. You know, that's what I'm really critiquing here. I'm like, sex workers are artists, but like at the end of the day, like, are you just a trust fund baby, or are you really actually doing the work?
Well, I'm sure that everyone who can hear the sound of my voice has fantasies that they would like to project onto body of workers. But we're gonna move on. That's the perfect segue to our next asset. So can we get that fantasy projected? There it is. Okay, great. So the body of workers platform enter page. This is a landing page for bodyofworkers.com. It has a beige background and the Body of Workers logo in the middle, a notice to not enter if you're under 18, and a button with the word enter. As I mentioned earlier, in 2018, SESTA FOSTA was passed in America, legislation that makes internet platforms liable for the facilitation or even suggestion of commercial sex. This has led to platforms like Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter introducing sweeping terms of service updates that crack down on sexual content. The research group Hacking Hustling claims that this has led to an increase in sex workers' accounts being targeted, censored, and banned. Eviction has framed this phenomenon as the digital equivalent of gentrification and saw their protest piece as a way to make a public space for sex workers online. Likewise, Body of Workers responds to the deletion of sex workers' content on the internet, claiming to create a space where sex worker art can exist. Both have asked what it looks like to reject corporate public digital platforms and create their own altogether. And obviously, this has taken on increased importance in the era of COVID-19, when the vast majority of our socializing and community work and art paneling is happening online. So, and I'm so excited to hear what the artists herself has to say about this. So the artist, is sex workers claiming of digital space a political act?
Well, I'm so happy you asked. I guess my answer to this is a little complicated. But complicated is good, I think. I think that sex work in any space is highly politicized, as we can see today. Yeah. And I think that the online world is this kind of like funhouse mirror version of the real world, especially now during COVID, where, you know, we don't really have a safe public space to be in anymore. The online world is our public space, so everything is just exaggerated. And so we have, you know, these crazy funhouse mirror reflections happening where celebrities are joining OnlyFans, but sex workers, as the critic mentioned, are being kicked off of their payment platforms. And this is happening at the same time, right? It's a little wild. But something that we have to remember when we talk about sex work in digital space is that sex workers are originators of online culture.
So true, so true, so true.
The internet is a voyeuristic experience, and people who created the infrastructure of the internet are actually porn performers and cam girls, and they created the routes that we are all running on today. Yeah.
God, that is just so profound and so really just important to remember. I don't really think that anything else needs to be said on that. I mean, I think that really just the artist said it, unless anybody has any follow-up on that.
I mean, if you think that having a flesh market for women's body is a radical political act, then sure. Body of workers is radically political.
There, she said it. Can I quote you on that in my catalog? Anyone else?
Still taking that in.
I mean, there's a lot to take in there. And the reason why I feel like it's hard to just step forward and speak over this swerve is that, you know, obviously you're sexually frustrated. And if anything, you'd be the first one that needs body of workers. So I really think you should think about that while you pull out that dildo out of your closet.
And that's exactly what the problem is people like you sexualizing someone like me who's just trying to take part of an academic panel. If I was a man, you would not be doing that.
What's academic about sex? It's all about feeling. And it's about connection. And I feel like, yeah, there's some lousy like people out there, just like any job, there's gonna be some people that aren't good at it. And then there's some people that are great at it.
So maybe we can sort of synthesize this and think about how body of workers could produce like a politics of feeling. The collector, do you have any thoughts on the politics of feelings?
As far as feeling is concerned, I think so much of how I feel about the works in my collection are informed by the stories behind how I came across them. You know, how did I find that artist or find that work? Where was I in that moment? Who was I talking to? Who led me there? And
yes, I'm sure that you've come across a lot of stories.
Yeah, all the people who've been part of that process then become part of that work and how I feel and think about it after it becomes part of my collection.
Well, speaking of coming across stories, I think that we have a little video to show next. Tech person, can we see the video? The video, please. Just going to let this video play out so you can take it in, and then I'll describe it for you. Okay, thank you so much. So this video walks through the eviction site. That's E-Viction, get it? And it shows an exaggerated version of an erotic listings page. Then it shows a brief snapshot from the end of the night. Here, the different artists shown live on cam perform in their separate rooms into a screen on a website that's glitching its way through one last performance. Some are showering and removing makeup, some are dancing to the destruction, and some are burning their artwork. To give this a little context, a huge factor in the gentrification of the internet is the question of censorship. Sex workers claim they are shadow banned and algorithmically suppressed, if not outright deleted and censored. Body of workers and eviction don't shy away from these issues, but rather try to make political and aesthetic statements from them. So, what does it mean? This is the question that I want to pose to the panel. What does it mean to make art out of commodification, censorship, and or politics? And I would just really love to punt this one over to the critic.
Wow, that is a very good question. It's something that's been really heavily on my mind. I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking, like, there needs to be some credibility beyond just body parts, something more abstract, layers that could be added to help us think about what our concept is when it comes to desire. How do we give it? But how do we take it? And also, who deserves to see it and who doesn't? Think about that. Just give it some food for thought. Because
yes. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Are you ready for this? This is really hitting it home. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Are you? Okay. So as Audre Lorde does describe, the erotic is a resource within each of us that lies in a deeply female and spiritual plane, firmly rooted in the power of our unexpressed or unrecognized feeling. So therefore, art should bring out an unrecognized feeling, and I hope that BOW as a platform can just do that.
I mean, really, just you bringing up Audre Lorde just makes me think, can body of workers dismantle the master's house with the master's tools? I mean, like, is the internet the master's house?
I mean, I don't like it. It's not my master's house, but if we're going to role play, and, again, I'm speaking from the terms of the fact that, I've had partners that are sex workers, and I learn the most from them. And so that's how I know about the art of it. And so when people put out this bullshit, that is not like expanding ideas beyond porn. Like, I think like what I'm looking at is post-porn, post-apocalyptic post-porn. That's, for instance, just wrap your mind around that. It goes deeper than just what we see. It's just not just the blonde bimbo online that we all grew up with. there's more ancient perceptions also of what sex is supposed to be. And it's not just based on this cultural appropriation of Kama Sutra and Tantra. So that's what
So, does anybody else want to wrap their minds around this idea of like being post-porn? What is post-porn?
I think part of it is that we're changing the nature of transactions, right? So as a collector, I can pay the artist directly, and I know that the artist is going to get that money. I know that I have access to their work, that all that work is available to me through BOW, that the work isn't going to get censored or taken down, and that when I send them the money, they're going to be able to access the money. They're not going to get locked out of their accounts. All of that, I think, is the biggest benefit to the platform.
Yeah, I agree. And I really, truly hope that the sex worker arts can be expanded beyond just what we see. And I think about as a platform for that, I am looking forward to seeing what sex worker artists are doing from their perspective, because I feel like then we get the real picture. We get new ideas. It's not just online.
Well, speaking of the real picture, I would like you all to sort of train your female gaze, or the they them gaze on our last asset. Techie, can we gaze at this last? There it is. Okay, great. So let's gaze at Body of Workers. This is the Body of Workers logo, which is beige text that reads Body of Workers in a beige box. And I'm definitely gonna just send this one over to the artist again, because I obviously want to hear from her about this. What is the future that Body of Workers imagines?
Whew. Good question. Wow, I feel like I'm still recuperating from some of the other discussions that were had here.
Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, I think, as the critic was kind of talking about, we do live in post-apocalyptic times. The future is bleak. Even the voices, I think, on this panel kind of gives us a sense of like the stakes that are involved here. The future is bleak, especially for people in my position. And that is why we are creating Body of Workers. It's a space made by sex workers. And despite what people might think, it is primarily for sex workers. So I would like to say that we're not imagining a future, we're creating it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, FUBU. Yes, I love that. So good. I want to give everyone time to respond to this futurist question, and we're getting close to the end. So maybe we can get the lobbyist's response about the future out of the way.
Thank you so much. Well, I think when we're thinking about what the future that BOW imagines, it's nothing that hasn't existed before. This is simply the patriarchy working at its best, having one of its puppets present a network for the trigger warning rape of women and girls, outsourcing objectification to the very subjects being objectified, so-called sex workers producing a zombie army of prostituted people on behalf of the patriarchy. And don't worry, curator, I'm wrapping up. I think the last thing that I will say is that if in a capitalist patriarchal society, an art institution is funding a so-called sex worker collective, it begs the question, what differentiates them from the very traffickers that exploit the workers themselves? In my eyes, Body of Workers is no different than any other website that could be used as the flesh market for the purpose of buying and selling girls. But I just want to directly address the artist for one moment. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart, with all of the beautiful women and role models at my organization, WAP. If you need anything besides tangible material support, please don't hesitate to come to my organization for help, and we can help you become a true feminist.
I just have a
Thank
question.
you.
If you're offering anything besides tangible material support, what kind of support are you offering me?
Unfortunately, we don't have time for the lobbyist to respond to that. But you know, when I think of you know, there is something that she said that kind of sticks out to me, which is this idea of a flesh market. When I think of the flesh market, I think of the dealer. So can you respond to the future that Bao is trying to create?
Well, I can't really speak directly to the future that Bao is attempting to create, but I can definitely talk about the future that I see with Bao, which is that it would absolutely, it's a tool, you know, it's a tool for people like myself to be introduced to new emerging artists that I can then represent and introduce to the people that they need to be introduced to, such as this fine collector who I'm sure has excellent taste. Yeah, I think that artists are, I think that it, you know, most of the artists on there probably aren't very good, but I'm sure that there are like a handful that, you know, could use some good representation like myself.
Okay, so the future question, does the collector want to respond? What's the future you're hoping to see from body of workers?
Well, as someone who is in a position to offer tangible material support, I'm quite interested in how Bao fulfills its mission and whether I'll be able to discover works of art and artists that I don't already know about. Especially during a time when more people than ever are going online to relieve their stress. And if they have the type of job that I have, a place like Body of Workers might be exactly what they want to log in to at night after a long day of work. So yeah, I'm excited to seeing what the future holds for this project.
Thank you. So maybe last we'll hear some futurist thoughts from the critic, your sort of futuristic look that you have going there. It's perfect.
Well, first of all, the future is now. It's every moment. And I feel like finally, we're at the point where there's like small increments of movement. Finally, the walking while trans ban was repealed. Finally, there's now a House bill, at least in Oregon, to decrim sex work. And I'm hoping that Bao helps us go more in that direction, because to me, art is power. Art is action-based. And I don't think it's just about the money and collectors. But I do think that artists, sex worker artists, need to be paid. So I also hope that this platform will also make sure that sex workers are not just speaking and you know, using their time to promote other events, but to be able to promote themselves in a safe way.
Oh, you know, I love that. So many of my sex worker friends just are always saying, fuck you, pay us. And I just think that's really just so inspiring to me. And I just feel so inspired by the work of Body of Workers and most of the people and most of the things that were said today on this panel. Unfortunately, we need to wrap up. So I want to thank all the panelists. And I definitely want to thank the Body of Workers team, which includes Kink Out and Veil Machine, and let everyone who is in the room right now know to be on the lookout for the official launch of Body of Workers and the next project for Veil Machine coming up later this year, the museum. I love that. You can follow at Kink Out Events and at Veil Machine on the socials for more information. And I hope that everyone has a really good night. Thank you so much for coming.